Thank you everyone for joining this really exciting event. Yesterday was a really cool day for us because we were finally able to share an initial preview of World ID. So today we will tell you a little bit more about that and we'll show you how to use it to build really cool applications that leverage proof of personhood to do very cool new things. And so before that, what I want to do is give you a little bit of context of why we built World ID in the first place and why we built Worldcoin in the first place and what is Worldcoin. So in general, the world is changing really fast. There's a bunch of really cool things happening. There's advancements in biotechnology. There is new platforms like virtual reality. We are making advancements in energy. But like most of us know, perhaps the most exciting thing that's going on nowadays is everything around artificial intelligence. The rate of progress has been really, really crazy. And within a few years, a lot of the jobs that we do every day will be replaced by computers, and there will be cool new jobs for humans to do. Now, as exciting as AI is, there's a couple of important questions that come up with it. Number one is, how do we ensure they're democratic? Meaning, how do we make sure that everyone in the world gets access to them? And how can we decentralize their governance? Two, how can we ensure that all of the economic benefits that they unlock get distributed fairly around the world rather than concentrated in a few people? And then lastly, and perhaps most urgently right now, is when everything can be faked, how do we know what's real and what's fake online? How do we know what's 20,000 people and what's 20,000 bots? And so when you think about it, at the core of all of these questions, the answer is personhood. To answer how do you govern things or how do you distribute something fairly, first you need to know what is a human. And so this is really what Worldcoin is about. What Worldcoin is about is we're building the largest network of real humans by giving away the ownership of the network to solve all of these underlying problems. Okay? And so with that in mind, today we will focus specifically on World ID and this very important question of how do you make sure or how do you know what is a real and unique person in the first place? Because it turns out it's a really hard problem to solve when you have 8 billion people around the world and not everyone is online and not everyone has access to the same tools. And so about 3 years ago, we embarked on a journey of saying, okay, how do we solve this problem? And how do we solve it in a way that is private, meaning we don't need to compromise the private information of a bunch of people, in a way that is inclusive, meaning everyone in the world can sign up, and lastly, in a way that is robust, in a way that you can actually trust that people are unique and that people cannot cheat in the system. And so we started very innocently saying, okay, let's just do like email or phone verification. And clearly that doesn't work because you can just create more things. And slowly we started going down the list of different methods that people have tried to prove that someone is a real person, that they're unique. And it turns out that each one of them is either not private or not inclusive, or is just not very robust. So for example, doing KYC, verifying someone's official documents, well, for starters, that's not very private. But the more important question is more than 50% of the population does not have a document that you can actually verify. And so you would be excluding half of the world if you do something like that. And so we said, okay, the fundamental answer seems to be biometrics. Within biometrics, there's a bunch of options. I will not run through them, but basically you need to rely on something that is able to distinguish between 1 in a billion people, and something like fingerprint can only distinguish between a couple million people, and something that is very difficult to modify, meaning people cannot cheat, right? So let's say that I use my palm. Well, if I made a new cut and a bunch of cuts, then now I'm a new person, right? And so that's something you want to avoid. And then once you say, okay, you're going to do iris and biometrics, you land on, well, unfortunately, you can use phone sensors. They're not accurate enough. Off-the-shelf hardware is also not powerful enough, and it's very easy to cheat with. And so you say you have to use custom hardware, sorry. And this was a really hard realization because no one wants to build hardware. But we thought it was a really important problem. And so we spent the following 2 years developing something called the orb, which you see one here. And so the orb is this little beauty. And we've been through about 7 generations of it at this point. And basically what it does is 3 things. It makes sure that you're real, a real person that is not cheating. Second, it checks that you're a unique person. It does that by looking at the iris code of your face. And then lastly, when it confirms those 2 things, it verifies your World ID. And we'll get into a second of what this means. And so we said, okay, awesome. We've solved this problem. We are now able to tell with this really cool device in a private, inclusive, and scalable way what is a real person and who is not. But then now what, right? How do we use this? And that's where World ID comes in. And so World ID is a new digital identity protocol that we built originally to be able to use the orbs verification that is essentially like an internet passport, right? And so it's a passport that can get stamps. And so these stamps are different types of verifications that show you're a real person. And so at launch, World ID supports two types of verifications. It supports biometric verifications with the orb, and it supports phone number verifications. And so phone number verifications are obviously a lot easier to do, right? And they're more convenient for developers, but they might not be fraud resistant enough for some applications. And so you as a developer can choose, hey, I need a really hardcore verification, so I will require orb verification, or I need just a lightweight spam prevention verification. And so in that case, phone number verification is sufficient for you. Now, since it's an open protocol, there will be a bunch of other types of verifications that different people will build. And so developers will be able to choose, okay, what type of verification do I need? Now, the most exciting things about the way World ID is designed is that first and foremost it's private. World ID is built on top of zero-knowledge proofs, which means that people don't actually need to reveal their verifications. They are just able to prove that they've been verified by an orb or that they've verified a phone number, so on and so forth, without having to reveal that phone number or their biometrics or anything like that. Second, it's decentralized. It's built on Ethereum, and it's open, it's permissionless, and anyone can use it. And lastly, it's open source. So everyone can contribute to it, but also everyone can see what is going on. And so what it looks like for people is when they sign up and they verify it, everyone gets a World ID. It's anonymous because you don't need to type personal information to it, but everyone's is slightly different because there is a different private key underlying to it. And so there are two main ways of using World ID for developers. Number one is signing with Worldcoin, and number two is what we call anonymous actions. The most common way to use World ID we expect will be signing with Worldcoin. The way that works is you would go on a website, and just as you can sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook, or sign in with Twitter, now you can also sign in with Worldcoin. When you do that, the application will show you a QR code or send you to the application. And using your World ID wallet, you can generate a zero-knowledge proof that signs you into that website. And so developers get an identifier for that user that is unique to that application, so users cannot be tracked across things they do. And they also get an attestation of what is their level of verification. So you as a developer, again, get a random ID for that specific user that you can use to persist their sessions. And you also get their level of verification without any additional information about that user. Now, some actions online require an even more hardcore level of privacy. Let's think about voting, for example. When you go to vote, you don't just want to make sure that each person only votes once. You want to make sure that you don't know how each person voted each time, or that you cannot connect their votes. And so in that case, you do not want one unique ID for that specific application. You actually want almost like an ID for any single action that you take. Think about Snapshot. You want, when you vote on Uniswap, you should be completely disconnected from when you vote on Compound. And so for that, there is a second mechanism that is called anonymous actions, which allows developers to do just this. It allows people to submit zero-knowledge proofs for every single action they want to complete in a way that guarantees complete privacy. And so this is quickly what it looks like. It's very easy, and Miguel will walk through a demo right now of adding a button to continue with Worldcoin. The user will see a QR code that they can scan with their phone or get deep linked onto a wallet, and then they can accept or reject that sign-in from their application. And so these mechanisms work across web, mobile, and on-chain applications. And so basically any Web 2 or Web 3 developer can start using these today. Now, all of these things are super easy to integrate, and rather than telling you about how that works, Miguel will just show you.
Yeah, so let's get to it. For the first demo, I have a version of ChatGPT that we built just as an example to show how easy this is to integrate and verify proofs with on-chain security for apps that are not even on-chain or related to crypto at all. So ChatGPT, as you may know, uses Auth0 as a security provider. And so when I click login in here, I get redirected to Auth0, and I can continue with my Google account, sign in there, and it should get me to the interface. However, I can also go into the Auth0 interface and enable signing with Worldcoin. And then when I go back and click login again, I should be able to continue with Worldcoin now. And so it will take me into this page that just gives me a QR to scan with my phone. I am going to open my phone, go to the Worldcoin app, and scan this QR code. And it will tell me, do you want, ChatGPT is requesting permission to sign in with Wallet ID. If I click verify, it will generate a zero knowledge proof, send it over to the app, verify it, and now I am logged in with a unique username. And as you can see, in this case, ChatGPT would have enabled some extra features for humans. As a more complex example of this on-chain action idea, we built this Discord bot to verify yourself as a human on Discord. Now, as we all know, Discord already has CAPTCHA verification and a few places, and even phone number verification, but we've probably all seen that this is not enough to stop attackers. And so for this prototype, you should be able to do /verify. And this would just give me a unique link, similar to how Collabland works, that just lets me verify my identity. And so when I get here, as Thiago said, we give the people the option to select the verification level. For this server specifically, we have made it so that only our verified humans can get the specific role that we're given, but other applications or other servers in this application could set up different rules or even different roles. And so I can open up the on-screen widget, and once again, scan the QR code. It will tell me that Discord Bouncer is requesting permission to verify your account in the Worldcoin Discord server. So as we can see, this is a custom anonymous action that will be different from a different server or a completely different app. And when I click verify with Wallet ID, this will get sent to the server, verified, and in this case, I already have the role. So, and the server only supports one verification per person, so I cannot get in, but a new user will be able to get in and get access to this only humans channel. So you can see, you get the verified human role here. And so this is really, really easy to integrate. We have this new version of our docs that tells you all about it at docs.worldcoin.org. So verifying getting set up with all of this is really, really simple. We have this JavaScript package that you can install. And for the advanced actions, you would just load this widget with an app ID that you get from our developer portal and a specific action. And that's it. You can get on success the proof, and then you would go to the API and you would just request the verify proof endpoint. You send everything in here and you get success true. And all of the users can only do this once, or and a specific number of time gets handled for you behind the scenes. If you want to do this on-chain though, it is a little more complex because it involves smart contracts. The first steps are similar. You just load up the widget and pass a specific signal, like for example, the user address that you want your smart contract to verify belongs to the user. And then in this example, this repository is giving users an NFT that they can claim. And so you will see that we have adopt function in this case. This is an application that allows users to adopt cat orbs. And so aside from the receiver, the user that is going to receive this NFT, which we do this way to allow meta transactions, this accepts a number of parameters, namely 3, a root, nullifier, hash, and proof. And basically the thing that you do is this nullifier hash is going to be unique for this user and this action. So a different user will have a different nullifier hash and a different action. Like if I was voting on a different governance proposal or minting a different NFT would yield a different nullifier hash. That's what makes it so that you cannot link users across actions. But this will be unique for the same user and action consistently, even if the proof differs. So what we do is we have a mapping here of nullifier hashes mapping to a Boolean. And so first of all, we will check if this user has already been verified. Then we call the world ID contract and we pass basically all of the parameters that we've received. And again, the documentation for this is here in the docs. Every parameter is explained here. And then after the user has verified, if this reverts, if the proof is invalid or anything fails here at all, the proof will fail, meaning that the contract will not keep executing. If we get through there, the proof worked, we just mark this nullifier hash as true or redeemed or any other logic that you want to do, and then you're good to go. As an additional, slightly more complex example, we made this partnership with Lens Protocol where you can verify your profile with Worldcoin. And the underlying logic is fairly similar, except that after we verify the proof, instead of just like marking that nullifier as redeemed, what we do is we associate it with the profile ID of the user. And what this allows us to do is when someone verifies again, instead of denying access to them, we just like switch which profile is verified. And so this lets them verify any number of times, but they can only verify one profile at a time per human. And so as you can see, the on-chain logic, the way that we built it makes it so that you can get civil assistance really, really easily in like about 5 minutes by adding a bunch of things to your contract. But you can also go much further and enable new civil related or like personhood related implementations that differ from just like one user, one X really, really easily.
Okay, that's great. So again, just to emphasize, to make this as easy as possible, there's 3 ways developers can implement World ID. The easiest way is to just go to single sign-in supported softwares like Auth0, and you can simply enable signing with Worldcoin as an option. The second level is integrating with the World ID widget that is on the documentation, is called the ID kit widget, and that is just a JS widget that you can put in any application with a few lines of code, and it allows you to use that. And then the last and more complex, but perhaps most powerful way to integrate is to go directly to the smart contracts. And so you as a developer get to choose what you need and how hard you need to go. But all 3 of those we try to make very easy, and we break them down on the documentation. Now, the cool thing about this is that this primitive is useful not just to solve the problems that we foresee in the future with AI, but actually having a proof of personhood that works today around the world is a very, very powerful primitive. So there's a bunch of things on the website. You can also find a list of ideas, but generally speaking, I'll highlight a few. First of all, in finance, we've all heard about under-collateralized lending and how that's something that's missing in DeFi. Well, you can finally do something like that with World ID. When it comes to governance, whether it's for DAOs or in the real world, having a one person, one vote or quadratic voting is something that we also think can unlock a lot of really cool things. But this is not just in crypto, right? Also in day-to-day, you could have a polls app for normal people where you can assure that each person can only vote once and they're voting anonymously, right? In social media, obviously, you could say, you could have a Worldcoin verified accounts like Lens now does, which allow you to filter users so that you can only interact with verified users, or you can prevent spam, things like that. And then lastly, for airdrops, in particular in crypto, we also think it'll be a really big deal to finally have a primitive that allows projects to decentralize in a way that doesn't have them playing a bunch of cat and mouse games with attackers that are figuring out how to get around the rules to just game airdrops, right? Again, you can still incentivize users to perform different actions, but by having the primitive of one person, one share, you can do a lot of really cool things. And beyond that, there's a bunch of things you can do with NFTs and whatnot. I encourage you to check out some ideas on the website. If you want to play with the SDK, there's already a waitlist open at worldcoin.org. and you can get the full information and sign up to the waitlist. There will be a specific access, or call it a fast pass for the people that are participating on this workshop. So stay tuned for more news on that, so that we can get you to the front of the SDK waitlist. And in general, it will be rolling out for everyone over the coming weeks and months. So that is World ID. World ID is a global identity protocol. It's meant to solve this problem in a private, decentralized, and open source way. It supports multiple proof of personhood signals, starting with the orb that has over 1.3 million people verified already around the world, and many more millions in the coming months, but also lighter signals like phone number and future signals like CKKYC. Other than that, I encourage you to sign up to the SDK today, read the blog post announcements, and feel free to share any feedback on the Discord or by contributing directly on GitHub. Anything else, Miguel?
Yeah, that's about it. If you want to build with us, the docs are at docs.worldcoin.org. You have any questions or you have ideas that you want to run by us, you can join our Discord, which is linked on our website, this worldcoin.org. And then also, if you're going to be participating in any of the upcoming ETH Global Hackathons, we're going to be in all of them. So build with Worldcoin.
All right, awesome. Have a great day, everyone.